Well, for the first 25 years I was a pastor, the subject of justice never came up. Not once in a sermon in the first 25 years of being a pastor did I ever talk about justice. It didn't come up in a Bible study I ever taught. It didn't come up in a conversation before or after church over coffee. It wasn't that we were against it. It just wasn't there. We didn't even know it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. Like a room in a house that you never walk into. You don't miss it. You don't even know what you're missing. What filled that space instead? Well, there were some other things. Personal salvation, we talked about that all the time. Heaven, we talked about that all the time. Getting your heart right with God, we talked about that all the time. Growing the church, how do we make the church bigger? We talked about that all the time. And those were things that we believed mattered. I still think many of those things matter. I do. But looking back, I can see now that we had somehow extracted the gospel from the world it was supposed to help change. The gospel became this personal thing, not this thing that held the potential to change the world. We had a faith that was entirely focused on the interior life and the afterlife, which left this life, the one happening right now in our city on these streets, largely unaddressed. We were oblivious. Now, I don't say this to indict anybody. The people who helped form me, they were good people, almost all of them, really good people, tender-hearted people. My father's one of the kindest men I've ever known. He has a heart to help anybody. If he knows about a situation, he'll help anybody. But we lived in the suburbs. And in the suburbs, you can construct a very comfortable life in which suffering is largely invisible. Now, some of you, I know you live in the suburbs and you have done far better than we ever did in seeing beyond the suburbs. Us in the suburbs, we knew about problems. We just never really saw them. You have to drive past it to get it, and we almost never drove past it. Here's where it turned around for me. A little over 20 years ago, I got tired of the suburbs, and I moved into the city. Now, I want to be careful here because I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to make this more dramatic than it is. Jane came shortly after I came. I got here a couple of years before her, but then she moved into the city, and we aren't heroes. We were not heroes. We aren't missionaries descending into the darkness of living in the city. That wasn't it at all. We were just people who moved. But that move, that simple act of geographic proximity, it changed almost everything about how Jane and I saw things. You cannot live in close proximity to poverty and pretend anymore it isn't there. You cannot see the same person sleeping in the same doorway every morning and file that away as an abstraction. At some point, abstraction becomes faces, real faces, and faces demand something of you. Now, I want to call my sweet, precious, wonderful, lovely wife up because I want her to tell you a little bit about what she saw when she moved to the city.
A lot of you know my story. I grew up in DeKalb County and the suburbs, and I went, through 12 grades of school there, and it was just a very nice, homey little life. My dad went to work. My mom came, my mom stayed home with us, and so we had a really, really great life. And I still have a great life. And but after I became an adult and I went to work, I went to work in DeKalb County in an underserved area. And I worked in a vocational high school for 31 years. And I saw a lot of poverty, and I started to understand what generational curse means and the reasons, people say, get a job, get off of the streets and all that stuff. But people don't understand what's going on in the lives of people in underserved areas. But I went to work every day. I shopped in the area. I ate in the area. And I saw, a lot of people riding buses and so forth and so on. But I would go home to my cozy little house in the middle of 8 acres, and I didn't really give it a whole lot of thought other than, this was part of my life, but I didn't do anything about it. And I never in a million years believed that I would get a divorce and leave my cushy life after I married Ray. There was several years in between there, but I married Ray, and he has taught me so much about generosity, giving, and loving, and I'm so happy about that. But we had this desire to try to make a difference and do something different. And so we moved to Hapeville. And the first few years that we were in Hapeville, our church was kind of top heavy with people who actually lived on the streets. And I knew the Tommies, the Bills, the Randys, the Carols, the Chris's, the Sherrys, and the Harrys. And I learned people just want you to see them. Everybody just doesn't want a handout. They just want to be seen and loved and heard. And that has really, really changed my life. And another thing that I have learned about or seen, and I see it every day, is when I go down Cleveland Avenue, I see this. And I think about all of these people, and I wonder, are they doing this for drugs? Are they doing this because they have children at home? Do they need to buy their bus tickets? I mean, just all of these things come into my mind. And this is my prayer every day, is for somebody to love these people. And when I say these people, I just mean just be loved and heard and understood. And I see ladies with 2 or 3 children getting off of buses. They have little carts that they pull. When they get in the grocery store, they have to buy the things that will fit in this cart so they can drag these 3 children back on a bus to God knows where. And the city has taught me so much, and I'm happy to be here, and I want to do more. And I also know that a lot of times that when people are on the street, you do everything you can to help them, and you fail. And but then I think about a song that Rachel used to sing, and it was like, we don't have to change the whole world. We just have to leave it a little bit.
I wish, for those of you that are new to the village, I wish you could go back 15 years ago and you could see we had so many people that without homes that were part of our church. And we had a group of people that would cook breakfast on Sunday mornings, and we would serve 30, 40, 50 people breakfast before church on Sunday. Some would stay for church. Some were like adios. They ate and left, and we didn't hold them to make them stay. And those were some sweet times. But we were learning things. We were seeing people. You grow up in the suburbs sometimes, and it's like you get drilled into your head, if somebody is struggling, well, it's their problem. They must not be working hard enough, or they must not be doing right, or they must whatever. And you don't even realize what people carry. People carry lots of stuff. So I just wanted Jane to, and I know every time she passes the plasma place, she just wonders about all of those people. They're selling blood. And then Neil told me the other day that there was a NPR story. They get less money for the blood in the inner city than they do when they sell it in the suburbs. But it's like they're selling blood just to survive sometimes. And so Anyway, thank you, honey. When we moved into the city, also around the same time, I was beginning to publicly come out in support of LGBT inclusion. And that opened the door to a whole different kind of suffering, the suffering of people who had been told by the church that they were fundamentally unwelcomed, people who had spent years trying to be accepted, many people who had then left, many people who were trying to stay anyway, hoping something might change. But my heart was suddenly gripped by these stories. It's like, wow, the complexity of what you see in the city made a difference. Proximity, again, get this, not a policy position, not a theological argument. These were faces, these were stories, and that's what changed me. I began to notice that every time I got close enough to somebody's actual life, something inside of me shifted. My theology didn't change overnight, but my eyesight began to change. And as my eyesight began to change, my theology changed. I started seeing things I had never seen before, or more honestly, things I had always been able to look away from. But slowly I started finding in the scriptures that I had read thousands of times, things that I had missed. In the Hebrew scriptures, the prophet Micah asked one of the most direct questions in all of scripture. He's writing to people who have become very religious, and I know religious people. I've been around religious people, not really my favorite group of people to be around when they have that real religious air about them. But he is writing to really religious people that they have stopped, their religion has stopped costing them anything. They're making offerings and they're going through the motions and they're acting religious. And these people ask sincerely, well, what does God really want from us? Does he want more sacrifice? Does he want more ritual? Does he want more religion? And this is how Micah answers. This is one of the greatest texts in all of the Hebrew scriptures. Micah says this, God has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Let me say that again. What does God require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Now, the word for justice there is the Hebrew word misfat, and it doesn't mean punishment. It means restoration. It means looking for things that are broken and doing things to heal what is broken, to repair what is broken. But I want you to get this, those three things. Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly with God. Except I don't really think it's a list. I used to preach it like, you got to do this, and you got to do this, you got to do this. I don't think it's like that, actually. A list is three separate items that you can check off. Do justice? Check. Love kindness? Check. Walk humbly? Check. I've done it. But as I looked at the structure, especially this week, it's not three equal items. It's one integrated posture. You do justice. You love kindness, and the way you do both of these things, the manner, the spirit, the orientation, is you do it in a humble way. You do it in a good, kind, simple way. Humility isn't a third task. It's actually the atmosphere in which the other two happen, which means justice without kindness becomes something hard and brittle. Justice without humility can become something self-righteous and consuming. But justice held inside of kindness and humility, that's something different entirely. That can actually be something very beautiful. Now, I want to talk about something that I have observed over the last 20 years of beginning to think seriously about justice. And I think this is something we all need to be aware of. And I know this, I'm speaking to myself. I have watched justice make some people more alive, more warm, more curious about the world, more full of something I can only call love. But I've also watched it make some people harder, angrier, more certain, more brittle, more exhausting to be around. And I have been that. I know I have been that. Same cause, completely different people on each side of it. I've felt it happen with me. And I've spent a lot of time wondering, what is the difference? What is the difference? So I want to spend just a minute with three men who showed me what it looks like to carry justice well. You know, two of these men you know, maybe three of them. The first man I want to talk about is a man I found in the car. I actually was driving back and forth to college and then back and forth to seminary, and someone put Tony Campolo cassette tapes in my hand. And I wore those tapes out listening to his lectures back and forth to school every day. Tony was a sociologist. He had taught at Eastern University in Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania. He had then taught at Eastern University. But he was passionate. He was convicting. But he did it with a smile. He did it with humor. He didn't hate anybody. He wasn't grinding anybody down with his certainty. He was inviting you somewhere to go with him. Now, for a young man trying to figure out what faith was supposed to look like in the real world, that was a lesson for me. That you could care deeply about the broken places in the world, but you could still be joyful. It turned out those things weren't in conflict at all. And one of the highlights of my life was 20 years ago, Tony Campolo stood in our pulpit and he preached at the Village Church. Highlight of my life. Second person, Shane Claiborne. Shane Claiborne was actually Tony's prize student at Eastern University. He came along later, and he too preached at our church. A few years back, he preached at the Village. The story I love about Shane is this. In college, he and a group of his friends decided that they wanted to go to Calcutta and they wanted to serve with Mother Teresa. So they did the only thing they could think of. They called the mission on the phone in Calcutta, India, and Mother Teresa answered the dang phone. These young Americans, Shane is the spokesman, scared out of their mind, and they didn't know what to say, so they said, what kind of lodging can we expect when we get there? And she said, you'll sleep on the floor, just like everyone else. And then she said this to them, God takes care of the lilies and the sparrows, God will take care of you. And those college kids, their life was just mesmerized by Mother Teresa's words. And they thought that's the coolest thing in the world, and they went, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, they dove in. Well, Shane's now 50 years old. He has a lovely wife. He has a young child. He lives in a neighborhood called Kensington in Philadelphia, which is one of the most devastated, poor, destructive neighborhoods in all of the United States. Jane and I walked the streets of Kensington with Shane Claiborne, and we saw drug addicts and homeless people and sex workers coming up to him and saying, Shane, how are things going? And he would love on them and talk to them, and we just would keep walking. And these people were coming out of the buildings to just shake his hand and talk to him. They loved him. They respect him. And yet, if you read in the United States, if there's going to be a lethal injection scheduled somewhere in the country, Shane will be there, as might also Marnie, might be standing right there with him because she has done that before. If there's a protest where people are getting arrested, Shane will be getting arrested. He gets arrested all the time. Shane melts guns down because of gun violence. He melts guns down for people and turns that melted steel into garden tools. He has done that for Jane. He does it for other people. He fights for the poor. He is a relentless anti-war guy. He does all of those things, and yet somehow he has this childlike wonder about him that is beautiful. How do you fight these battles? Tom and I talk about this. How do you fight these battles? Because we want to punch people in the nose. But he doesn't. He just is kind, and he's loving, and he just does it. He's genuinely delighted to be alive. Like the world, even in its brokenness, is still astonishing to him. Third person I want to mention is President Carter, a brilliant man, a deeply spiritual man. He did not speak at the Village Church, but he's good friends with Gene Cahill. They were buddies, and so I think that's incredible. And he asked Gene to serve with him when he was in Washington. A public servant who spent his entire post-presidency making the world more just, building houses for the poor, brokering peace, tackling illnesses and diseases that nobody else was willing to tackle, teaching Sunday school into his 90s. We went and watched him teach Sunday school, a man who walked into the hardest rooms on earth, but he never seemed diminished by any of it. And when you say Jimmy Carter, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? His smile. Isn't it his smile? He had the most beautiful smile in the world. After everything, after all of it, the man who carried more weight than most of us will ever know. And what we remember is his smile. That's what justice looks like when it is carried right. That's what I want us to get. It's not easy to get this part. I have felt that tension personally. Early in this justice journey, when I was first starting to see all of this, the need, the suffering, the apathy of people who could help but wouldn't help, I remember feeling like the weight of the world had landed on my shoulders. Many of you have explained that to me. You've said, I feel the weight of the world with what's going on. But I felt like it was my job to make a right, to somehow fix everything that was wrong. I had to fix it. And nobody was helping, and nobody seemed to care. And the injustices just kept coming. And that made me bitter. It made me angry. It made me resentful. And honestly, it made me at times small-minded. And I walked in that for a while, longer than I would like to admit, and I was not a joy to be around. I was not a joy to be married to. Hard to believe, but I was not always perfect in this deal. But the cause was right, the passion was real, but something had gone wrong in the way I was carrying it. And at some point I had to reckon with a simple question: is this the life I am called to live? Because yes, I'm called to defend the marginalized. Yes, I'm called to defend the poor, stand up for the poor, to show up for the underserved. I believe that with everything in me. But if the doing of that makes my heart smaller, if it makes me resentful, if it makes me mean and angry, then let's be honest, I'm doing something wrong. Because it's not supposed to do that. There's got to be a way that you can carry it and it not kill you. That's not faithfulness when you carry it that way. It's bitterness with a Bible verse attached to it, and you don't want that. Jesus said, I've come that you might have life, abundant life. He didn't say, I've come that you might have a cause. He said life, abundant life, which means even in the serving, even in the fighting, even in the standing up and showing up for people the world has forgotten, our lives are still supposed to be abundant, beautiful, big, and good. Justice that shrinks you is not the justice of Jesus. Let me say that again, because that maybe is the takeaway for the whole talk. Justice that shrinks you is not the justice of Jesus. So here's the $1 million question. I'm getting close to the end. How do we do it? Again, I think the answer is in Micah. The people who carry justice well never separate it from kindness and humility. They never separate it from kindness and humility. They stay near people, specific people with specific names. I love what Jane said. We can name those, the men and women that were homeless, that were a part of our village family. We knew them. We knew them. We knew their stories. We knew their names. And when we would get word that they had passed away, we would hold funeral services for them, and we would cry for them, and we would hold hands in the park with the other homeless people, and we would say memorial prayers for the people who had left us. They became real to us. Another thing that's important is not only to stay near people, but stay curious. Instead of certainty all the time, it's important to stay connected to beauty and delight, even inside the hardest realities. And that's tough sometimes, but don't give up on listening to beautiful music, and don't give up on looking at beautiful art, and don't give up on doing things that make your soul, feed your soul. Those things are important. And they seem to understand, people that do this well, somewhere deep down, that justice isn't primarily their project, it's God's project. And their job is to participate in it, not to fix it, but to participate in it. Jesus says something in Matthew 11 that I think about all the time. Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. But this is the line: for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus is talking to people who are exhausted by religion, exhausted by a system of obligation. that had made faithfulness into an unbearable weight. And he's not telling them to stop carrying things. He's telling them there's a different way to carry it. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light, he says. A yoke, that was a farming tool designed to distribute weight evenly between two animals so the load could be pulled without either side feeling crushed. Jesus said, my yoke fits differently. It won't be no weight. It'll be weight that's carried differently. I think this is the invitation inside the justice conversation. Some of us are carrying justice like it's entirely up to us. Like if we put it down for a moment or allow ourselves joy or rest or beauty or laughter, something catastrophic is going to happen and it will be our fault. I used to preach like that, by the way. People can't believe this, but probably the first 5 years of my life as a preacher, I would stay up all Saturday night. I would stay up because I felt the weight of the world. If I didn't say it just right on Sunday, then somebody was going to miss it and their eternity would be in the balance, and it would be because I fumbled. Can you imagine how narcissistic that is, number one, how crazy it is, how awful it is, but that's how I thought. There's another way. That way is where you carry your part, not everybody's part, but you have a deep trust that you're participating in something that's larger than yourself, where the kindness and humility doesn't slow you down, it actually sustains you, where justice becomes not the thing that hollows out your life, but it's the thing that connects you to the fullness of your life. Justice should make your life bigger and better. Now, I've been a pastor again for 45 years. Justice was invisible for the first 25 years of them. I don't say that with shame now. I say it because I think it's more common than we admit. And I think for a lot of people, justice is still an unopened room because nobody's shown them that it was there, or because perhaps they live in places where they've never actually looked around with their eyes to see what's all around. There's a way to see justice as the thing that moves you towards people than against people, that makes you curious, not certain, that keeps you connected to kindness, keeps you connected to humility, even when the world is unjust, that lets you carry real weight without being crushed by it. Now, I want to leave you with a story. That's my favorite story. In the last 2 years, my favorite story, and I've been just sitting on it for a long time, and Jane will say, when are you going to tell that story? Today's the story, my favorite story, all right? And I wish I'd come up with it, but I didn't. Glennon Doyle. Do y'all know Glennon Doyle? Glennon Doyle's a wonderful writer, and she's just lovely. I heard her tell this story, and it comes from a piece that was written by Michelle Alexander. So that's who's attributed. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So here it is. Glennon says, quoting Michelle Alexander, there is a river called justice. It is long and it is deep, and it's an ancient river of love and equality and shared humanity. And that river has been flowing since the beginning of time. It was flowing before any of us were born, and it will be flowing long after we are gone. It has never stopped. It has never stopped. That river is the resistance, which means we are not the resistance. We don't have to be the resistance. Our only job, and this is a quote from Glennon Doyle, is to get our asses in the Justice River. That's the job. Get our asses in the Justice River. Now I want you to picture that river. On that river, I want you to see a fleet of boats. There's an immigrant justice boat. There's a queer rights boat. There's a racial justice boat. There's a protect higher education boat. There's a health care for everybody boat. There's a free Palestine boat. There's all of these boats in this river of justice. And every single one of those boats has a captain, somebody who's been steering that vessel for a long time through waters far rougher than anything that we've ever seen. So nobody needs to start anything new. This has all been going on for a long, long time. We just need to get in a boat. We just need to get in a boat. And when we get in the boat, we're not the captain of the boat. We're the deckhands on the boat. We take orders, we show up, and we do the work. And the only thing we yell across to the other boats We don't say, why aren't you in our boat? You shouldn't be in that boat. You should be in our boat. We don't like you because you're not in our boat. No, we cheer them on. We see you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Go, go, go. We don't yell at the other boats asking why they aren't in our boat. We need them in their boat while we're in our boat. Here's the part I want you to hear most clearly. While we are in the boat, yes, we protest. By the way, a big one's coming up, I think July 4th. Yes, we organize. Yes, we activate. And also, we dance. We love each other so well on that boat, it's almost embarrassing. We party on that boat. We make our boat so alive, so full of joy and warmth and genuine human delight that everybody standing on the shore looks out and thinks, I want to be wherever, whatever that is, I want to be on that. I want to be in that. Because the other side can't offer what we can offer. What we're offering is loving, vibrant, an irresistible place to land and belong and fight for the good of all people. And when people come in from the shore, climbing over the side, a little wet, a little unsure, we don't yell at them for not knowing about getting on the boat earlier. We don't say, you stupid idiot, why weren't you here 3 years ago? Even though we only learned about this 8 minutes ago ourselves. We make room for them. We hold out our hands. We keep them. That's the whole thing. It's not a burden. It's not a crushing weight. It's not bitterness dressed up as faithfulness. It's a river that cannot be stopped. And it's a boat worth climbing into. It's a party on the water. And before I finish, I want to say something to anybody in the room who is just maybe not okay right now. Maybe you're going through a tough season, tough year, tough several years. Maybe that river feels very far away for you. Maybe you're in a season so dark and so heavy that the idea of getting in a boat or of dancing or of showing up or of doing anything feels almost cruel to even suggest. Like that's just one more thing you can't do. If that's where you are, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't have to get in the boat today. Don't worry about it. We got this. You don't have to get in the boat today. Your only job right now is to stay close to people who love you. Let them sit with you. To take next small steps towards getting the help that you need and the help that you deserve. The river's been flowing for a long time and it's going to keep flowing. The boats will still be there. When you're ready, the boats will still be there. And this community, this boat, if you will, right here, we're not going anywhere. When the day comes that you can take one step toward the water, we're going to be there with you, helping pull you into the boat, and we'll help you. I say again, Micah's words are profound. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly. Do justice, love mercy or kindness, walk humbly. When you can, make sure you're in a boat. Get in a boat. Would you pray with me, please? God, you were in the river before we knew there was a river. And you have been rowing these boats long before we showed up on the shore. Forgive us for standing on the bank so long, watching and waiting and wondering if it was really our business. At least today we should know it is our business. So show us our boat. Give us the courage to climb in. Teach us to take orders from the captains who have been at this far longer than we have. And let us be people who dance on the water, who love each other so well, who carry this so beautifully that everyone still on the shore can't help but want what we have. Oh God, help us see the rivers moving. Help us see it's time for us to go and get in a boat. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Thank y'all for everything. Love y'all very much.